She said the room was empty. But the blood on the floor proved otherwise. I should have walked away the moment I saw the blood. My name is Claire Dawson, and until last winter, I was a quiet woman living an ordinary life in the small mountain town of Pinebrook, Wyoming. I worked the front desk at the Silver Maple Motel, a rundown 3-building property where the carpets smelled like wet leaves and the walls remembered more secrets than any of us ever would. I never imagined that one night would turn me from a simple motel clerk into the only witness in a murder investigation. A murder no one heard. It was December 14th, a night colder than truth and darker than guilt. The storm outside lashed against the windows, and most of our rooms were empty, except room 6. Room 6 was always strange. The guests rarely stayed longer than a night. They always left early, always quietly, and that night, the man inside, registered as Kyle Benton, hadn't stepped out once in the entire day. At 11:47 p.m., I walked past his door to deliver a fresh towel he'd requested earlier but never picked up. I knocked gently. "Sir." "You asked for towels." No answer. I tried again, still silent, but then I smelled it. A thick metallic scent leaking through the cracks of the door. Blood. My heart kicked hard against my ribs. I pushed the door slightly. Surprisingly, it wasn't locked, and it opened only 6 inches before stopping abruptly, as if something heavy pressed against it from inside. I peered through the gap and saw it, a pool of blood spreading across the wooden floor. My breath caught. Someone was lying behind that door. I called 911 with trembling hands. The storm drowned out the sirens until the police were practically at the front steps when Sheriff David Porter, a tall man with tired eyes, stepped inside room 6. He froze. There was no body, just blood, a lot of blood, enough blood to kill a person twice. Detectives arrived within minutes. They searched every corner of the motel, inside closets, behind the dumpster. Even the roof, nothing. The room was silent, the kind of silence that suffocates. Sheriff Porter asked, "You didn't hear anything? A fight? A scream?" I shook my head. Nothing. Not a single sound. Room 6 had always been soundproof, yes, but this silence felt wrong. As the officers photographed the blood patterns, I noticed something strange. The lamp cord near the bed was torn and stretched, like someone had used it to tie a person down or strangle them. My stomach tightened. Someone had been murdered here, but where was the body? The next morning, I reviewed the footage from the motel's security cameras. At 3:12 p.m., the man, Kyle Benton, checked in, but at 3:14 p.m., someone else followed him into room 6. A woman, very small frame, dark hood, face hidden. I rewound the footage again and again, but her face never showed. Detective Mary Sahill, sharp and uncomfortably calm, stood beside me. "You didn't mention a woman." I didn't know. I whispered, so the victim might be her. She muttered, "Or the killer," I thought. But then I caught something. Detectives missed at 3:16 p.m. when the woman entered the room. A third shadow appeared inside. Someone had already been in room 6 when Kyle arrived. Someone who never checked in. Someone who didn't want to be seen. I swallowed hard. This wasn't a simple murder. This was a trap. The detective treated me like I was hiding something, because let's face it, when you're the last person to see a murder scene alone, suspicion sticks to you like frost. One officer even whispered, "Maybe she cleaned the body." She works here. The accusation stung, but what stung more was the truth I hadn't told them, because I did hear something. A sound so faint I thought I imagined it. At 11:45 p.m., just minutes before finding the blood, I heard something inside room 6. Not a scream, not a struggle, a breathing sound. Slow, deep, almost animal-like, but when I knocked, silence returned. Why didn't I tell the detectives? Because the sound didn't feel human, and I didn't want them to think I was going crazy. 2 days after the incident, the police released the room back to the motel. I don't know why I entered. Again, curiosity, guilt, fear, but I stepped inside with a flashlight. The blood had soaked deep into the floorboards despite the cleanup. I crouched down, touched the dried edge, and felt a cold shiver run through me. Then I noticed something under the bed, a small silver chain, A bracelet? Women's style, with one engraved letter. My pulse spiked. The woman in the hoodie, or someone else. Suddenly, the door behind me clicked, closing on its own. I jumped, spinning around, and there he was. Sheriff Porter. Ma'am, you're not allowed in here. But his voice felt different. Come, sorry, I said, stepping back. He picked up the bracelet from my hand. How did you find this? It was just under the bed. He stared at it for too long, uncomfortably long. Then he said, I'll take it. But he didn't log it. He didn't bag it. He just pocketed it. Something was wrong, very wrong. That night, I called a friend at the sheriff's office, Nina, who worked in evidence. Did Sheriff Porter turn in a silver bracelet today? I asked. No, nothing like that. My chest froze. Why would the sheriff hide evidence? I dug deeper. 2 hours later, Nina called back, whispering urgently, Claire. L stands for Lena Porter, the sheriff's daughter, who had gone missing 2 years ago. Officially, the sheriff claimed she ran away. Unofficially, rumors said his daughter's disappearance drove him half crazy. But why was her bracelet in room 6? Unless she had been here, recently, alive. The blood in the room, was it hers? My hands shook violently. I realized I was dealing with a murderer, and he was the sheriff. I reviewed the camera one last time. The small woman entering the room, the way she walked, the size of her arms, the slight limp in her left leg. It hit me like a slap. I had seen that walk before, at the sheriff's office, on an old bulletin board. It was Lena Porter herself. The sheriff's missing daughter was alive, and she had come to room 6. But why? And who was the third shadow? I rewound again. At 3:16 p.m., the door shut behind all three. At 3:98 p.m., a faint flicker of the motel's hallway light showed something horrifying. A man leaving the room, sneaking out the back door. Not Kyle, not Lena, a different man. The storm that night had blurred the footage, but I recognized the shape. Broad shoulders, thick black jacket, limp on the right foot. Someone from Pinebrook, someone everyone feared. Deputy Rick Saunders, Sheriff Porter's closest friend. My lungs felt tight. This was a conspiracy. Everything pieced together horribly. Lena Porter didn't run away, she was being hidden. The sheriff and Deputy Rick were keeping her off grid. They used room 6 because it was the most soundproof. Kyle Benton walked in at the wrong time. Lena tried to escape. Someone got murdered. The sheriff hid the evidence, but whose blood was it? Kyle, Lena, or someone else? I didn't know until the sheriff showed up at my door that night. Claire, he said gently, I know you've been digging. His eyes were cold, too cold. You shouldn't have gone back into that room. I stepped back. You killed someone. I whispered. His jaw twitched. Then he said the words I'll never forget. My daughter needed help. Kyle threatened her. He got what he deserved. My stomach dropped. So you hid the body. He smiled, a slow, broken smile. There are things better left unheard. He stepped closer. I can't let you ruin this. I ran. He grabbed my arm. I smashed a lamp into his shoulder. He staggered. I bolted down the stairs, slipping on the icy steps. The storm outside howled like a dying animal. Sheriff Porter followed. I sprinted toward the motel lobby, dialed 911 with numb fingers, but he caught me before I reached the phone. He pinned me against the counter. Why couldn't you stay silent? He hissed, I'm not like you. I gasped. He raised his gun. I shut my eyes. A shot echoed, then another. I opened my eyes slowly. Sheriff Porter fell to the floor. Behind him stood Lena Porter, crying and shaking, holding the deputy's gun. He killed Kyle. She sobbed, and he was going to kill you too. I held her. She collapsed into my arms like a scared child. No more silence. She whispered. The investigation exploded. Deputy Rick confessed everything. Kyle discovered the sheriff had been hiding Lena. He tried to take her away. Sheriff Porter killed him in rage. Rick helped him remove the body. They planned to kill me to cover the trail. Kyle's body was found buried near the old logging road. Lena was taken to a safe facility. Sheriff Porter died instantly from the shot Lena fired. Pinebrook was never the same, and neither was I. I still work at the Silver Maple Motel. But I don't walk near room 6 anymore. Sometimes, when the wind is quiet enough, I feel like the silence in that room still breathes. A reminder, the worst crimes are the ones no one hears. Please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.